In October of last year, I realized that I could no longer feel love. It was like a light had been extinguished. I would begin and end each day in tears. I would take breaks in the middle of the day just to cry. On the outside, I was the same. I was fine. I could still pour myself with dedication into my work. I could care for my husband and 3 adorable children with devotion. I just couldn't feel anything in return. My heart was empty. Like love itself had let me go. So I got curious. After all, what topic is more worthy of our curiosity than our hearts? And I asked, if I could feel love before, why couldn't I feel love anymore? It turns out that bearing, nursing, and raising 3 small children while working to make partner at a major global consulting firm by the age of 34, it's exhausting. Honestly, I didn't make enough time for my husband, for my family, for my friends who love me. I'm guilty of screaming through my day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., often in and out of 3 cities a week, full of worthy, fulfilling, even fun activity that left my heart starved. I did what you would expect. I wallowed my deepest wallow. I cried all the tears there are to cry. But each morning, there were more. I railed at all the real and perceived hurts, all the people who didn't love me the way I wanted to be loved. That only hurt more. I did start to see a therapist about that time, and that helped. But I needed to do more than just pay attention to my heart once a week for an hour on Friday mornings. My heart needed more than that. I turned 40 last year, so I laughed and said, this is just my midlife crisis, right? I even bought the red convertible to prove it. I got the blonde highlights, too. But laughing at sadness doesn't make it go away. It's hard to feel love when your heart is sad. Sadness had become my constant companion. We went running together most mornings. We even liked listening to the same cheesy love songs like Adele, Make You Feel My Love. About that time, I came across the retelling of a story of the Buddha after his enlightenment. The evil one comes knocking at his door. The evil one is whatever he most fears. Instead of slamming the door angrily and turning him away, the Buddha invites him in. He treats his worst fear as an honored guest. He bows deeply. And he says, I see you. Together, they sit for a while. The entire time, the Buddha's heart is calm. And then, of his own volition, the evil one gets up and leaves. For me, my worst fear is that I will never feel love again. Only sadness. Sadness visits me in quiet cracks in the day. I'll be sitting on an airplane, ready to take off, earbuds in, looking out the window, and sadness will come and sit in the empty seat next to me. Take my hand. Together, we'll cry a little or a lot. And then we'll land, gather our belongings, get up and go our separate ways. I'm learning what it means to have a calm heart in the face of my fears. But the challenge for us all is not just what would it mean to have a calm heart when our fears find us. The challenge is to have the courage to be curious about our own hearts, about whatever sadness, fear, or unworthiness is really there. And not just to see it and say, would you take a look at that? But to see it the way the Buddha would see it, with compassion. A compassion that allows us to reframe our fears, retell the stories. So for me, instead of saying, why don't the people in my life love me the way I want to be loved? What if instead I could say, what is going on in her life right now? What is going on in his story right now that makes sharing or showing love impossible? What wounds have yet to heal? What if he's doing the very best that he can right now, just like I'm doing the very best that I can right now? And what if, instead of saying, being vulnerable will get my heart hurt, what if instead we could say, being vulnerable to others will let us feel love in ways that are surprising and delightful? And what if, instead of saying, my heart will never be loved the way it most wants to be loved, what if instead I could love my heart the way it most wants to be loved? Reframing these fears made it possible for me to tell the people in my life that I couldn't do this alone. I needed their help. The words, I need you, are easy. They're really hard to say. As a strong, accomplished woman, to admit when I was weak was hard. At first, my husband and my friends and my family were surprised, right? But then not. We all feel weak at times. We all feel sad at times. We just don't talk about it. We don't post it on Facebook. We don't begin a meeting at work with all the reasons why we might be sad that day. We certainly don't talk about it at cocktail parties or in the after-school pickup line. But sadness is there. Perhaps these days, more than ever. And in my darkest days, I started to see glimmers of hope. My husband had the words, "We love you," written in icing on my birthday cake this year. Not happy birthday, the words I most needed to hear. We love you. And then, after a grueling week away on the West Coast, late nights and jet lag, I flew back and got up early on a Saturday morning to go running with my friends, as I always do. I gave up 4 miles into the 6-mile run, exhausted, nothing left to give. I was a bit ashamed, even judgmental of myself. I got a text from my friend Anne that said, "Amelia, anyone who gets up early on a Saturday morning when they could have been sleeping to go running is awesome." Be kind to yourself, she said. Who sends a text like that? I have never sent a text like that. Be kind to yourself, she tells us. And then my wonderful younger sister volunteered to take my 3 children for the weekend so my husband and I could get away. And the moment we walked in the door, she told us to book the next trip. Wow. These are such small acts of great love, and I noticed them. In the field of mindfulness meditation, they say if you notice something, it will start to change. Do this with me. Close your eyes and just notice your next in-breath and out-breath. My heartbeat is quieter. My breathing fuller and deeper, just in paying attention to my breath. When I started paying attention to my heart, I could feel what was really there. I could see the sadness. I could begin to reframe some of the stories of my fears. And I could invite others in my life who love me in, so that I could feel their love. I believe that love shows up sometimes when we least expect it. I believe that love is largely about showing up, just being there. I believe that love is a promise to remember fondly when you can't be there. And I believe, most of all, that love is a willingness to accept with compassion ourselves and each other exactly as we are. I believe all these things to be true of love. But the curious thing about love is, in order to feel it, in order to really deeply, deeply feel it, you first have to pay attention to your heart. Thank you.